Hare Krishna, thank you so much for joining this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. We'll begin with the prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam by Sanatana Goswami. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Sadphala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya, Sarva Lokaika Dripadha, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kali Dhvantoditaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, Paramananda Pathaya, Prema Varshaksharayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostute, Madeka Bandhu Matsangin, Madguru Manmahadana, Mannishtharaka Madbhagya, Madananda Namostute, Asadhu Sadhu Tadayin, Ati Nijochata Kara, Hanamuncha Kadachinmam, Premna Hritkanthayospura. We'll now recite the prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, in the glorification and also the stages of bhakti, and we'll pray to Srimad Bhagavatam and these verses to actually bestow us the blessing for us to understand the potency and also for us to strive to move from one stage to the other. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Shushrusho shraddadhanasya vasudeva kadharuchi Syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatitha nishevanat Shrinvatam swakadha Krishna punyashravana kirtana Hridayantasto hiya bhadrani vidhanoti suhrutsatam Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Tadharajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayaschaye Cheta etar anavidham sthitam sattve prasidati Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha Bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate Vidyate hridaya grandhis chidyante sarva samshaya Kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishvare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, welcome again. We will continue the discussion on Canto 2, Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service. And text 13 and 14 is what we will discuss today. Let me share the screen. Okay. So far it has been a discussion between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. And now Shaunaka and Sutta Goswami are coming into picture. So this is spoken by Shaunaka Rishi on behalf of all the sages. Text 13. Shaunaka uvacha ityabhivyahritam raja nishamya bharatarshabha kimanyat prishtavan bhuyo vayasa kim rishim kavim. Shaunaka uvacha ityabhivyahritam raja nishamya bharatarshabha kimanyat prishtavan bhuyo vayasa kim rishim kavim. Shaunaka uvacha, Shaunaka said, sorry, just a second. Iti, thus, abhivyahritam, all that was spoken, Raja, the king, Nishamya, by hearing, Bharata Rishabha, Maharaja Parikshit, Kim, What? Anyad more? Prishtavan, did he inquire from? Bhuyaha, again. Vyasakim, unto the son of Vyasadeva. Rishim, one who is well versed. Kavim, poetic. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shaunaka said, the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaja Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities. And some of the prominent features of those qualities are as follows. So Prabhupada is actually listing all the 26 qualities of a devotee. This is the description from Chaitanya Charitamrita given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He is kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, faultless, magnanimous, mild, clean, non-possessive, a well-wisher to all, satisfied, surrendered to Krishna, without hankering, simple, fixed, self-controlled, a balanced eater, sane, mannerly, prideless, grave, sympathetic, friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Such beautiful qualities. Just reading them itself, there will be a desire that I really want to cultivate these qualities. Out of these 26 prominent features of a devotee, as described by Krishnadas Kaviraja in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, the qualification of being poetic is especially mentioned herein in relation to Shukadeva Goswami. The presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam by his recitation is the highest poetic contribution. He was a self-realized learned sage. In other words, he was a poet among the Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kadanchana smute yasmin dushkaram sukharam bhavet vismute viparitam va Shri Chaitanyam namamitam. So far, Shukadeva Goswami has been describing different kinds of worshippers and how ultimately the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest and can award everybody whatever they desire, and even if they don't desire anything. And after that discussion, Shaunaka Rishi is actually asking Sutta Goswami here. So they have been hearing this discussion, and then it really shows their eagerness when the other person is explaining, suddenly we're like, oh, what happened then? What did they talk about? Like it really shows their inquisitiveness and enthusiasm in that subject matter. So that's what we are actually seeing here. And also while doing that, it's very beautiful the way Shaunaka Rishi is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami in this verse, and further verses he actually talks about Maharaja Parikshit, how wonderful a devotee he is, and then about Shukadeva Goswami, and then thus glorifying the speakers and also the subject matter. So, like when we hear some speakers, they say, the attention span for some people maybe 15 minutes, 25 minutes, and it can depend. It's not like long. So after they heard for some time, so they want to, I'm just speaking, not that they won't have the attention span that we guys have trouble with. But it's really revitalizing that attention and that inquisitiveness and enthusiasm to hear Krishna Katha, to hear the topics that they're hearing from Sutta Goswami. So in this verse particularly, he is describing Srila Shukadeva Goswami as very learned sage, well-versed, Rishim and Kavim, poetic. And it's really nice that Prabhupada is bringing all these 26 qualities of a pure devotee. And I was really captured by this, what Prabhupada is saying. A pure devotee of the Lord automatically develops all godly qualities. And this is a topic of discussion. We say, okay, automatically, so I don't have to do anything. In a sense, it is true. It's actually very natural and very gradual. I mean, gradual in the sense it automatically follows the path. If we are following the principles of Krishna consciousness properly, sincerely. So that really is the qualifier for this automatically. I was just thinking for myself. And these qualities, we have these lists of many places, the qualities of a devotee. In Bhagavad Gita, quite a few places we actually read about these qualities. And it's actually nice. These qualities, these are the things, of course, in one sense, Krishna actually decorates the devotees with these qualities. But on the other hand, if you see, these qualities actually make one very attractive. When we have this kind, peaceful, truthful, equable, in one sense, we are looking for association of those people, and we also want to become endowed with these qualities so others can actually have such wonderful persons associations. So it's again bringing the importance of cultivating these qualities. So as we're saying, natural development of these qualities with devotion service. When we read about these, then naturally that quest will be there, that I want to cultivate these qualities. And when we have that in our consciousness, that I want to develop these qualities for Krishna's pleasure, for serving my spiritual master nicely, for serving the devotees and the extended community very nicely, our workplace or the people that we interact in day-to-day with the family, we really want to be these kind of people, these kind of qualities. So they can really have that connection to Krishna and appreciation of devotion service. Then naturally our consciousness will be, dovetailed or guided to actually, imbibe these qualities. And the other thing also we keep hearing, when we want to develop these qualities, we want to associate with those who have these qualities. I was just thinking for myself, sometimes when I see anyone, has these qualities to a higher degree, it's really inspiring. And it also brings them and they are so friendly. They are so expert at this. Why am I not like this? Immediately the thought comes. But thankfully, as we are reading and hearing from spiritual masters and other senior devotees, we are getting this understanding that the real way to develop that qualities is not to envy that person, but really appreciate and be inspired and actually take their association. With that, a little bit of that will be rubbed onto us also. So that was really inspiring for me as I was reading about these qualities. It's bringing that to the forefront, the importance of the qualities, and also how we can actually cultivate them. And in this particular verse, Prabhupada is highlighting Shaunaka Rishi's emphasizing Shukadeva Goswami's quality of being poetic. If we see even in Krishna's qualities, it's described he is Kavi, he is poetic, and he knows everything. And as Krishna's pure devotees, the devotees are also like that. Sometimes we hear, I mean, some devotees, even when they say things, it actually comes out so poetic. And this whole description of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's just so sweet, just hearing itself, the third verse of first chapter, right? Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. It's just the verse itself is so beautiful. And if you see, wow, the language and the way it says, right? It's just so beautiful. I was just remembering that verse. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukadamritadrava samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. This is coming from the Shuka Mukha Amrita Dvayam. And Prabhupada actually explains in that it's not a liquid, it's not a solid, it's like a kind of a puree, a nectarian puree. And that's actually flowing, this poetry, this beautiful nectarian poetry is actually flowing from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami. We can see Shaunaka and Shaunaka Rishi and the other sages are also relishing that, and they're actually expressing their happiness for that. We will move on to the next verse, text 14. Eta chuchushatam vidvan sutano arhasi bhashitum kadha hari kadodarka satam syu satasidhruvam. Eta, this Shushrushatam, of those eager to hear, Vidvan, O learned, Suta, Suta Goswami, Na, unto us, Arhasi, may you do it, Bhashitum, just to explain it, Katha, topics, Harikatha Udarka, result in the topics of the Lord, Satam, of the devotees, Syu, maybe, Sadasi, in the assembly of Dhruvam, certainly. Translation. O learned Suta Goswami, please continue to explain such topics to us because we are all eager to hear. Besides that, topics which result in the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. So here again, they're expressing their eagerness and they're not satiated. So they're expressing, it's like, okay, fine. You told us about this. So now what? Let's go back and do our duties. But they are so absorbed and they want to hear more and more. This Vitrupyama from the first chapter, they express the same thing. Vayam tuna Vitrupyama uttama shloka vikrame. These descriptions of Uttama Shloka, the Supreme Lord Hari, are so nice that the more we hear, the more we want to hear. We are never satiated with this. They ask Sutta Goswami, please tell again, some more. And we can see after one full canto, they're expressing the same thing. It really, just helping me. Sometimes I go through this. I like Srimad Bhagavatam, but at times when things are happening and then there is no time, I'm like, okay, fine. I don't want to read. I don't want to hear, kind of a thing. But just seeing their enthusiasm and their eagerness, it's actually helping me also to, develop that kind of eagerness to counteract all the laziness and all the inattention that comes because of the, in the material world. Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport here. As we have already quoted above from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, even mundane things, if dovetailed in the service of Lord Krishna, are accepted as transcendental. Here he's quoting this Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Anasakta Savishyan from Nitra in Devotion. How even though they are worldly things, when we see them in connection with Krishna, that nothing is actually um, nothing is separate from Krishna, or nothing is existing without Krishna's presence or Krishna's connection, we can actually see them as transcendental. And last night, one devotee was sharing, I felt it's really beautiful. He was saying, when we become pure devotees and actually become Krishna conscious, we will actually relish this material world. We won't no more, grieve or like cringe about things that are happening here. Why is this like this? Why is that like that? We actually see that connection in each and every instance, each and every situation with Krishna. And that can only, bring that so much of the joy and happiness of Krishna consciousness. I felt it's so beautiful. And it's something really that to be hankered for. For example, the epics or the histories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are specifically recommended for the less intelligent classes, women, Shudras, and unworthy sons of the higher caste, are also accepted as Vedic literature because they are compiled in connection with the activities of the Lord. Mahabharata is accepted as a fifth division of the Vedas after its first four divisions, namely Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. The less intelligent do not accept Mahabharata as part of the Vedas, but great sages and authorities accept it as the fifth division of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata, and it is full of Lord's instructions for the less intelligent class of men. That's interesting. Bhagavad Gita is Lord's instructions for the less intelligent class of men. Some less intelligent men say that Bhagavad Gita is not meant for householders, but such foolish men forget that Bhagavad Gita was explained to Arjuna, a grihastha, family man, and spoken by the Lord in his role as a grihastha. So, Bhagavad Gita, although containing the high philosophy of the Vedic wisdom, is for the beginners in the transcendental science. And Srimad Bhagavatam is for graduates and postgraduates in the transcendental science. Therefore, literatures like Mahabharata, the Puranas, and similar other literatures, which are full of the pastimes of the Lord, are all transcendental literatures, and they should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. Yes, so Prabhupada is bringing here the importance of Mahabharata and also the Puranas, Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavad Gita, how these are actually meant for less intelligent class of men, particularly Mahabharata, he's referring, and the Puranas. The reason being, it's actually in a story format. I don't know, many of us would have heard already. Bhagavad Gita is kind of a philosophy, given just the principles, the instructions per se. But how it's applied in our practical lives, we can actually see through different examples in Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharata and Ramayana, how the lives of people, if they follow these principles, and how it is if they act, without these scriptural injunctions, how their lives will be. So in that way, we will actually be, naturally trained in these principles. When we see these women, Shudras, and unworthy sons of higher caste, I was thinking, I think actually Prabhupada gives that footnote here. Let's see. Yeah, for text 14, he actually gives this footnote. Even 50 years ago, the social structure of all Indians was so arranged that they would not read any literature that was not connected with the activities of the Lord. They would not play any drama not connected with the Lord. They would not organize a fair or ceremony not connected with the Lord. Nor would they visit a place that was not that was not holy and sanctified by the pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, even the common man in the village would talk about Ramayana and Mahabharata, Gita and Bhagavatam, even from his very childhood. But by the influence of the age of Kali, they have been dragged to the civilization of the dogs and hogs, laboring for bread without any sense of transcendental knowledge. This is very interesting. I was remembering in my childhood, they used to have all these dramas, like for every festival or like every Ekadashi, the whole village would gather at one place outdoors, and they used to, just makeshift stage and play out these dramas, very beautiful dramas. It's all connected with these stories. And there are these, I don't know in other places, but at least in Andhra, they used to call Katha and Katha, where either one person or like the three persons in just like singing and responding manner, they would describe these beautiful pastimes. Two things that I remember, I was like very young, maybe like 5 or something. I really remember these two pastimes, very, very beautiful. One is Rukmini Kalyanam, the wedding of Rukmini, how Lord Krishna married Rukmini. And the other is the Sudama's pastime. Very beautiful narrative, and the way these actors would act, you actually feel their emotions. These dramas actually have that potency. So it's not that, everybody is like sitting there and reading all these scriptures, but just through the culture, just through that art, naturally, everybody knows these stories. And my grandmother, every night, she used to actually put me on her feet. And then she used to, kind of swing me and then tell these nice stories, many of them from Ramayana and some from Mahabharata. And she had never gone to school. And I never wondered at that time, I used to so relish those stories. But now I wonder, where did she learn this? Where did she, read this Shastra? She cannot even read or write. But it's just passed through that oral, that medium she has heard from her parents, grandparents, and through all these fairs and celebrations, they have all these pastimes read out. So it's just so, naturally imbibed in the fabric of the society. That people are naturally into remembering these pastimes and learning these characters and value system. We don't need a separate value education at that time. So that's why this is very important for us to understand that to preserve this culture, not in a sense of Hindu culture or like Andhra or like whatever Indian, but really seeing the essence and really to preserve that culture. And this Bhagavad Gita, it's actually interesting for me because Prabhupada is writing, it's part of Mahabharata, and it's instructions for the less intelligent class of men. Though we may feel that it needs like so much of that intelligence to really understand these instructions. So as we hear, there are different levels of these understanding and realization of these instructions. So in a sense, the same book can actually be read or heard by, just a layman who never, goes to school or has much education. They can also be benefited in their life with these instructions. They can apply at their level. And whereas a very highly scholarly, very devoted person can actually go into much deeper realizations of the same instructions and can apply at that level. So in that sense, the scriptures, they actually can cater to different levels of people. And so that is one aspect, how it's part of the culture and it's helpful for anyone, any common man. And Prabhupada then brings another kind of contradicting point here. He mentions they should be discussed with full confidence in the society of great devotees. So this Satam Syu Sadasi Dhruvam, definitely they need to be discussed in the assembly of Satam, pure devotees. And the beautiful sentence here, Shaunaka Rishi is mentioning, Katha Harikadho Darka. Harikatha Udarka, one which doesn't result in this Harikatha. Such topics are, what is the purpose of them? So definitely any topic, any of these, as we are discussing, these dramas or dance or like any kind of these, when they're evoking that connection to Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's glorification, that's actually really helping us. And yeah, that Harikatha Udarka. So Prabhupada is bringing this difficulty. What's the problem if devotees don't take up this task of discussing and then giving the message as it's supposed to be? The difficulty is that such literatures, when discussed by professional men, appear to be mundane literature like histories or epics because there are so many historical facts and figures. It is said here, therefore, that such literature should be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Unless they are discussed by devotees, such literatures cannot be relished by the higher class of men. So, the conclusion is that the Lord is not impersonal in the ultimate issue. He is the Supreme Person and he has his different activities. He is the leader of all living entities and he descends at his will and by his personal energy to reclaim the fallen souls. Thus, he plays exactly like the social, political, or religious leaders. Because such roles ultimately culminate in the discussion of topics of the Lord, so this is the Harikatha Udarka, all such preliminary topics are also transcendental. That is a way of spiritualizing the civic activities of human society. Men have inclinations for studying history and many other mundane literatures, stories, fiction, dramas, magazines, newspapers, etc. So let them be dovetailed with the transcendental service of the Lord, and all of them will turn to the topics relished by all devotees. The propaganda that the Lord is impersonal, that he has no activity, and that he is a dumb stone, Krishna, without any name and form, has encouraged people to become godless, faithless demons. And the more they deviate from the transcendental activities of the Lord, the more they become accustomed to mundane activities that only clear their path to hell instead of return them home back to Godhead. So this is where Prabhupada is referring to that footnote. Srimad Bhagavatam begins from the history of the Pandavas with necessary politics and social activities. And yet, Srimad Bhagavatam is said to be the Paramahamsa Samhita, or the Vedic literature meant for the topmost transcendentalists. And it describes Param Gnanam, the highest transcendental knowledge. Pure devotees of the Lord are all Paramahamsas. And they are like the swans who know the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water. So the first paragraph, Prabhupada is bringing the importance of this literature for the common people and the society. And in the second paragraph also, that message is there, but he is actually emphasizing the importance of devotees discussing this as to understand it properly, to understand the real message. When, as we were discussing the same topics, I was describing my grandmother and like how the villagers see these things and, learn from these things. But if we analyze it more deeply, they have led probably a decent dharmic life, not really, troubling others, or they're just living on their own, their lives. It's just that's all. They don't have any further higher, way of living their life in terms of really dedicating in that exclusiveness to the Lord's service. They have Krishna or, whatever demigod in their life. They have that God-fearing nature and they're worshipping. They have that understanding that there is something beyond and that we need to surrender, but not in this ultimate sense of understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that we need to dovetail our whole life in that service. So that understanding is not there. So while the common men have this inclination, so we need to, as devotees, we need to provide the society with the opportunity to be engaged and connected to this literature, Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, these stories. It's also important for us to understand the real essence of the message and also share that message to the people according to their capacity, according to their level that they can take up. So then gradually we can help to elevate the society instead of, just let them just stay at that level of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and just I lead my life and, kind of I'm done with it. Instead of that, we can actually help people to elevate from that consciousness. So that is why it's very, very important that the devotees actually discuss these topics and not just some professional men for the purpose of their living. It's not just for that purpose. So that's why it's Prabhupada is emphasizing, in one sense, that is his mission. That's what he has actually, did all his life, spent most of his life to actually write Srimad Bhagavatam and all these other books. And he was encouraging all his devotees to publish more and more in shorter and shorter time frames, so that these books can come out and can actually go into the hands of these people who anyway have this inclination to read and but will be reading all these mundane literatures. Instead of that, let them actually take up these books and start reading these so they can be benefited. And this also can actually help if the devotees discuss instead of some professional men who don't have this higher understanding. If the devotees discuss, then the message can actually go to this public or the common men, that the Lord is actually personal, and how the relationship with the Lord can help the devotees, and how it's so wonderful to live in that relationship, in that consciousness. So that is the ultimate benefit actually by this literature and the devotees, the role of, bringing the scriptures to the common man. And Prabhupada is bringing this very beautiful point, how anything like, even if they're so-called like whatever activities they are in, but if we can somehow bring that connection of Krishna in that, then it becomes transcendental. And Prabhupada is quoting this example, how Srimad Bhagavatam is beginning with this Pandavas and Ashwadhama is going and killing Pandavas, and it's all like political and war and that stuff. One may ask, what does it have to do with the transcendental, subject or the scripture, which is beyond this material world? Because everything seems to be like whatever fights typically happen in this material world. So what is the really about these topics being present in Srimad Bhagavatam? Because they are actually talking about the material world and how, in spite of these situations, how these devotees were actually connected, and how this whole thing is a description of the Lord's energies, and how he empowers and arranges different situations in which his devotees can actually, show by their exemplary behavior and the responses how to deal with this. So in that sense, these devotees, they have the art of sucking milk out of a mixture of milk and water, like the swans. So whatever is the discussion or the topic, the devotees can actually bring that devotional service, the aspect of it, and thus can help other people to understand this. So that's what Prabhupada is discussing. I just want to read a short paragraph from Burjan Prabhu's book, and then we can conclude. Yeah. After hearing Suta Goswami's account of Shukadeva Goswami's instructions to Maharaj Parikshit, Shaunaka Rishi inquired. The son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, was a highly learned sage and was able to describe things in a poetic manner. What did Maharaj Parikshit again inquire from him after hearing all that he had said? Shaunaka Rishi then expressed his enthusiasm for Krishna Katha, but added that the discussion of the Lord Hari should certainly be discussed in the assembly of devotees. Why is this important? Because hearing about Krishna from non-devotees will plant false and mundane concepts about Krishna in the heart. Only devotees know Krishna properly. Shaunaka Rishi, however, knew that both the king and the sage were exalted devotees, and that the Krishna Katha between them would therefore be very potent. With full confidence in Sutta Goswami's qualification to accurately convey the dialogue, Shaunaka expressed his eagerness to hear further. He knew that by hearing from Sutta, he and the sages of Naimisharanya would be able to experience Krishna. For Krishna himself is present whenever devotees speak and hear about him properly. And Bhujan Prabhu is quoting this very beautiful pastime. In a 1973 lecture in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada also noted the potency of discussing Krishna Katha among devotees. Krishna's place, Goloka Vrindavan, that is spread everywhere. How does that Goloka Vrindavan become spread? As soon as there is a devotee, yes. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. Krishna says, Naham tishtami vaikunte nacha yoginam hridayeshu. I do not stay in Vaikuntha Loka or within the heart of the yogis. Tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhakta. I stay where my devotees are chanting about me, about my glories. This is the process. Immediately Krishna is there. So that's the beauty of Krishna Katha, how we are also being fortunate to actually discuss this Krishna Katha, to these discussions, and we can see the same kind of eagerness, the same kind of fortune that this Shaunaka and other sages are experiencing by hearing from Sutta Goswami. And the same experience was there when Maharaj Parikshit and all these elevated devotees are hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. So we can conclude. So here in these two verses, Shaunaka Rishi was asking Sutta Goswami, what else Maharaj Parikshit asked, and please describe them to us. And he is, Bhujan Prabhu is nicely bringing that. Etat shushrushatam vidvan. Shushrushatam is, they are so eager, they are expressing their eagerness. And vidvan is, they're quoting the qualification of Sutta Goswami, how qualified he is to tell. So this is again similar to the discussion of qualifications of speaker and the listener from the first canto, first chapter. The listener need to have this eagerness and enthusiasm and inquisitiveness to really hear the subject matter. And the person who is saying, the devotee, they need to be learned and realized. And accordingly, when they give the subject matter, give the Krishna Katha, that becomes very potent. Satam syu sadasi dhruvam. So to conclude, Prabhupada is quoting all the 26 beautiful qualities out of which Shaunaka Rishi is glorifying, Shukadeva Goswami being poetic in text 13. And that also emphasizes the importance for us to cultivate Krishna consciousness, through which we can naturally develop all these beautiful, wonderful, pure devotee qualities. And in text 14, Sutta Goswami is expressing his eagerness and the qualification of Sutta Goswami. And Prabhupada is bringing how it's so important for the devotees to discuss this Krishna Katha in different avenues, from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, how it's important to give this message from a proper understanding to the devotees, because that can actually help them to understand the message as it is, and not just by some professional men who don't have the understanding of Krishna being the supreme person. Yeah, so that's all I think we have. if you have any thoughts or questions or corrections, please share.
Hare Krishna. Mathaji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Please accept my humble obeisances to Mathaji. All glories to Sri Prabhupada.
A very beautiful class. I wish we could continue more.
Krishna, I have to tell you some truth here. I didn't prepare anything, and I was like, just this morning I woke up super late and I just took shower and joined the class, and just while I was reciting the prayers, I was praying to Krishna. Krishna, if you so desire, these verses are talking about Krishna Katha. So if you so desire, I know Prabhupada is saying you will be present. So be present here, and through these devotees' presence and blessings, let something meaningful come out.
You are already there, a follower of Sugadev Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. You can feel the love.
If at all something is there, it's that power of those prayers and the blessings of Krishna and all those wonderful devotees, Mataji.
I mean, it's really transported me. I mean, how this Bhagavad Katha was in our culture, if I may be given 2 minutes, I hope. And
sure, Mataji, we have time. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. When from the childhood, I mean, grade school onwards, we read. I read about Vamana Katha in my elementary school, and then Sita's, Adayala Vakyam, that is part of our poetry. That is what Sita is sending with Hanuman, that secret message to Rama, that you have met me. So that is all. And then the Kuchala Vrittam, that is, all this is a part of our language class in Malayalam. And even those days when there was no electricity even, people will be walking some miles to go to the temple, Krishna temple, where during the festival there will be performance of Kathakali drama, and the lamp will go on only about 10 or so. I mean, everybody goes after dinner and, lighting this torch made of coconut leaves and all. There's no flashlights and every sophisticated flashlights or everything. They'll be carrying their children. They'll be going and sitting there in the temple courtyard, and this beautiful performance of these Kathakali stories. And children, naturally, they fall asleep, peek inside, in between what is going on. Sometimes feel scared about this Dushasana, and I remembered all those things. Even now, I have a wish that we will all sit together and watch one of these Kathakali is on it is on YouTube or anything. It's so absorbing, so fantastic, and what rigor of training these artists undergo, in their physical training to perform that dance. I mean, there is so much in the gifts that Krishna has given, intelligence, and to think that Lord himself is in the background. He is probably seeing all these performances. It's so amazing, that temple and the culture associated with it, how it is in the veins of people actually. But now, of course, the TV has spoiled everything. And the movies, they are all Gramya Katha, they are all, so, and the TV serials, if you watch, they are so destroying the character of the growing young generation. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. You are so gifted, so beautiful to listen. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for transporting us back to those whole beautiful days. Yeah, very, very beautiful. And it's so, natural for the society to, just people are so encouraging them. And, it's just so wonderful. As you were mentioning about all of us sit together and watch, I was thinking of Sundar Leela Mataji is here. She is very gifted in dance and like very beautifully expressing these pastimes. Sundar Leela Mataji, thought for you to consider and plan something.
Yes, that dance is great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was also thinking how these Goswamis, they have written these books on the philosophy, but they also wrote so many of these Rupa Goswamis, if you see, so much of the dramas and the dance and things, because they know it's actually important for these common men because they are anyway used to watch. So when they watch this, it just becomes so natural for them to get attracted. And the same thing with Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans and just, just that sweet, natural Bengali language, it just becomes like a household thing for them, so naturally to sing and, understand this philosophy so easily. Yeah, such beautiful culture. Thank you.
That reminds me of our Bhakti Marga Swami. I mean, of Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, there were great artists, and there is this drama person, devotee, Bhakti Marga Swami's performance. If you see one time, you will never forget I recently also something on YouTube I saw. It's so wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. It's so beautiful. One of the dramas I remember was the Sakshi Gopal drama in Puri Yatra. Chinese devotees have done. I was so touched with them. Everyone was like kind of really moved the way, even though we know the story, but the way they have acted. And the thing was, after that, Maharaj was saying they don't even have, I think that, it's actually from Chaitanya Charitamrita. They don't even have it in Chinese, but they have let some devotee translate this and then understand and to really, bring that out into emotions. It's not at all easy, but the way they have performed, it was like, I mean, everyone was in tears. As this actor of Sakshi Gopal, he was just like going behind this young brahmana, and just that the whole interaction between them is so moving. I was like, wow, yeah, it has such a potency.
Amazing, amazing.
Okay, any other devotees, any other thoughts?
Sundar Leela Mataji sent a message, Mataji.
Who's Prabhu?
Sundar Leela Mataji sent a message in the chat if you want to see it.
Oh, okay.
Looking forward.
Oh, looking forward for the pleasure of Radha Shyam Sundar. Thank you. We will be looking forward to be immersed. Anything, devotees? Any of your childhood memories? Sandhya Mataji is kind to share her.
No, I was also thinking about when you say Hari Katha Mataji. I mean, that culture was there even like 30 years back, right? But now we don't see that. I mean, I don't know if it's still there or not, but I don't think it is there. People are not interested because they're interested in the live TV, right? I mean, TV, whatever is coming, it's all kind of completely gone. I mean,
People
I
don't
know,
have time, right? With the name of civilization, Prabhupada is writing, everyone is running for the bread. And, earlier it's only during the daytime they will work, and evenings they have, all this time to connect with each other and then, be connected to the God and pray together, eat together, all that. Now everyone of us is running. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, but though it was out of fear, I mean, many of the people might be doing it, but it's not that all have the impersonal understanding. But yeah, the personal understanding they might not be very clear about what acharyas teach us. I mean, we are very very fortunate to have that kind of understanding, and not just understanding about the God, but connected directly with Him through the chain of disciplic succession. So, getting the very right understanding that no way nobody can get better than this.
Yeah, I think that's where the the two things I was thinking about. One thing is for the common people, at least so that they won't be degraded, at least they can live at that level. And for those devotees who actually want higher realizations, higher consciousness, the opportunities there. Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
I think. Say 31.
Yeah.
Any last question or comment we can discuss and then stop. Okay, if nothing else, thank you so much for joining this morning and being here. You all have a very wonderful Krishna conscious day. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patanam Pavanebhyo Vishnubhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.